Hi, I'm Paul Regnier with Door County Nature and Travel, and welcome to Door County Today, a new television show about Door County, Wisconsin. Door County is a special place with over 300 miles of shoreline, jewel-like parks, and talented musicians, artists, and actors. Door County is an excellent destination for you to discover and explore. Let's start out with a visit to the iconic Al Johnson's Swedish restaurant.
Hi, good morning. Welcome to Al Johnson's.
The start of it was, my dad had a partner in the very beginning. In '49, my dad had gone to Marquette, and he came out of the Army Airborne, and he was in Army Intelligence, and that was going to be his degree. In fact, that was his degree after he went to school as well, but he didn't finish. He had a year to go, and the opportunity came, finish school and/or buy this grocery store and turn it into a restaurant. And it worked out. He decided, I'm going to stick this out for a couple more years, and then a couple more, turned into a couple more, and then you got what you got today. They used to have a cabin out in Appleport. Now even I walk out there to this day, and I still feel like I'm, 9 or 10 years old. And we got old photographs of him where he grew up out there. He was a dog person. All the kids here are animal people. So long before the log building was built here, it was the original restaurant. Looked more like an A-frame or your typical city store, really, but in a small town. I remember the plaques being out front of the provinces in Sweden. I remember my grandfather being here, my grandmother being in the kitchen all the time, meatballs being rolled by hand before the machine came along.
We used to have white tabletops. They used to have big metal pedestals under the tables, and as little kids we used to climb around and bang them with forks and knives, or we'd grab straws and we'd shoot. We thought that the restaurant was like a playground for us.
Counter was still as it is. Even the old wood paneling underneath the counter is the same. I think if you look around, these chairs are the original chairs that I remember. Nothing told you it was a Swedish restaurant from the outside at that time.
I mean, there were times where it's so slow that he would just hang a sign on the door that said, "Gone fishing, help yourself." And there was a can, and everybody would just drop money in it. The reason why we have the restaurant today the way it is because of Dean Madden. And Dean would walk by and he'd say, "You ought to build a log restaurant with a sod roof."
They went to Norway, and they were introduced to a fellow by the name of Knut Larson, and they sat down, and as my dad used to tell it, on a napkin they sketched out some drawings and a handshake, and away they went.
And they built the entire building in Norway first, and everything was delivered here on the date that they needed the logs, and everything was built completely around the old restaurant. We never closed.
No, sir. He's going to build this restaurant around the old restaurant, and we'll disassemble the logs disassemble the old walls as the new logs went up. We watched the Norwegian carpenters hand carve some of the posts out here with their homemade Norwegian knives that they're very proud of.
I remember the greatest picture ever that I saw was my dad sitting at the very tippy top of the gift shop when the logs were crisscrossed like this, and he's sitting there on top with a little Swedish flag. So it was really neat, and they put it all together, and it worked. He had a really good friend, Harold Larson, who everybody called Winky Larson. He had the ski hill, North Ski Ridge in Fish Creek. And he and Al were very good friends. And as a joke, every December 9th, he would always get my dad a pet. When Al was redoing the roof, his friend kept saying, "Well, you ought to put a goat up there. You ought to put a goat up there." Every day he'd come and bother Al and tell him, "Well, you ought to put a goat up there." So one day, unbeknownst to Al, Winky went and found a goat, and it was a big billy goat. His name was Oscar.
He actually slung it under his arm, and he carried it up the ladder, and this was no small goat. And when he got to the top, the goat leapt to the first sure footing he saw, and Winky went down backwards, and I think he busted several ribs, and the goat sat there down, looked at Wink Larson, and that's how the whole thing really started.
So it wasn't for his best friend, Wink Larson, I don't believe that we would have even thought about putting a goat on the roof.
Every once in a while, Al and my dad would get a letter that say, "Mr. Johnson, I want to bring this to your attention. We had a marvelous meal at your place. We went in there, but I think it's terrible about that elderly busboy that runs around there and shouting at all the girls." And he would chuckle, and he'd write a letter back and say the elderly busboy was me, Al Johnson, and I apologize if you felt like you were rushed, but we have, June, July, August, September for these people to make their money and us to make our money. And we hope you enjoyed your meal, as it sounds like you did. But by no means do we mean to rush you, but that's just the nature of the business here.
He was in here working, we were in here working, and we didn't complain about it. We just would try to keep up with Al and try to keep up with Ingert. You know, it's like they were working all the time.
He used to always say, I want to put Door County on the map or Sister Bay on the map. I think he did. They might not know the name of the restaurant, they might not know, you know, but they do know the place with the goats on the roof no matter where you go. Part of Door County forever, you know.
I'm Michael Bestir. I grew up in Stoughton, Wisconsin, just outside of Madison. I build functional art furniture. It's kind of different, a lot of different woods involved in it. Some neon lights and some embedded marbles into the wood and light behind the marbles so it lights up. Sometimes I've called it dancing furniture. Comes alive. Tell people at night it dances around their houses and they don't know it. Moved up to Door County in 1987 and had a job for about a year and a half working with a woodworker, and from there I just kind of started buying tools and machines on the side and kind of playing around on my own, realizing that I could make an art out of it. My ideas come just out of my head. Some of them come actually in dreams. I usually do a rough sketch, and if I like what I'm looking at, then I will do a more detailed drawing of it. I do not take it to the final dimensions, because when you do that, if you make one little mistake, let's say, or one little change, then all the other dimensions will change with it. So I kind of leave it a little bit loose, and that way I can kind of grow with the piece as I'm developing it and designing it. I do small things, pivot hinge boxes with mixed woods, to fairly large pieces, buffets, cabinets, but I try not to go too large as far as width and depth, because I'm a one-person show in my shop here, and hard to handle pieces when they get real large, and very difficult to finish them with spraying and doing the final works on them and getting them to and from the gallery. The biggest problems I have working with wood is getting the right moisture content of the wood, which is around 7% moisture. Wood's alive, and you just have to work with it and make sure that you understand it. Pam and I got together about 8 years ago, and we share the space where we're at, and it works out quite well. At first I didn't think it would work with my furniture because it's a fairly small gallery, but once we moved the furniture in, it's surprising how it kind of brought life to the whole gallery. It works really well with jewelry and the jewelry cases, and so she has a lot of clients that have always wanted to put their pieces in a nice jewelry case. So I have been doing a lot more of those. We're greatly surprised by how they combined and worked well together. It's just a nice spot, close to Wilson's ice cream, and when people are thinking about a piece of furniture and they're discussing it between the two, I will send them over to Wilson's and have an ice cream cone and discuss it. And usually it works. They come back and decide that it's a go. I have a lot of pieces spread throughout the country: California and Florida and Arizona, Texas. They're all over. People will contact me, give me a call, and say if they saw a piece, do I still have it? Would I be interested in shipping it? And so I make arrangements to have that done. I ship through a company out of Sturgeon Bay, which they fully insure it and take care of all the shipping and packing and crating and stuff. This is a great place to come up for an artist. I recommend come up ahead of time and look it over, maybe find a gallery that suits what you do as an artist, and work with that gallery for a bit, see if your art will work and sell, and before you make a major move. It's a great place to be artistically energized. It's quiet in the winter, and there's not the pressures of tourism, which is I love it in the summer when I'm dealing with that in the gallery, and I love it in the winter when I'm not. So it works both ways, and I'm just very lucky and fortunate to be up in Door County to be working with those elements. As an artist, you can be a lot more creative when you don't have the pressures of running an art gallery in the summer. And that gives you the freedom to grow and move with what you want to do and be a little more experimental and take time doing it. The water is soothing and the seasons are great, so I enjoy it. Even the winter with the snow, it's beautiful, it's inspiring.
Hi, I'm Paul Regnier with Door County Nature and Travel, and welcome to another segment of Door County Today. Today we're going to be watching birds, or bird watching, or birding. Already today we saw about a half a dozen species of sparrows, about 10 species of warblers, and a number of other migrating species of birds that move through Door County in the springtime. We also saw red-winged blackbirds. Bird watching is not just watching birds, but quite often it's listening for their bird song. Like most of the world, things are turning digital, including bird field guides. Here's a bird we saw this morning, the yellow warbler. And we'll just take a look at some photos of this bird. This works great in the field for identifying birds and also sharing those birds with your fellow bird watchers. In Door County, we have lots of different habitats that provide incredible homes for species of birds throughout the year. So we go out and bird by habitat. We'll say, well, let's go along shorelines, and we'll look for birds that are associated with shorelines. So looking for your habitat can quite often tell you what you're going to see on your bird outing. The highest bird counts are generally found in the springtime, in the months of late April, May, and into June. In areas like this, Weberg Marsh, wetlands that are high quality and support great habitat and all the elements that habitat needs. We are now at the Ridge of Sanctuary's Logan Creek property, located just south of Jacksonport. The trillium, name was given by Linnaeus, refers to threes. And what we have here is a flower with 3 petals, 3 sepals, which are located right behind the petals, and 3 leaves. Found also on the forest floor here is a common sedge that is in full bloom, but quite often overlooked by most people as any type of flowering plant. Sedges look like grasses, but if we take a look and see this carpet of these grass-like plants all along the forest floor here, you can see their blossoms. There are over 100 species of sedges in Wisconsin. Another wildflower found on the forest floor is toothwort. Quite often grows in large clonal pockets mixed in with leeks and sedges and trilliums. The toothwort is named, its Latin name, dentera, refers to the tooth-like structures and projections found on the root. This is the perfoliate bellwort, and it gets its name from the stem that actually perforates right through the leaf. Within the lacy leaves of the forest floor, we find a gem, the wild bleeding heart. It resembles the garden variety of bleeding hearts in bleach white colors found in the woodland floors here in the rich soils of the beech maple forest. Another common wildflower is the spring beauty. Spring beauty is characterized with a white flower with pink lines or streaks or veins that are found within each petal. Spring beauty gets its name from the fact that it comes out in very large numbers and covers the forest floor in early spring. This is the beech tree. The leaves are just starting to come out. They're known for their long chestnut-colored buds that hold the leaves through the winter. They're also known for their bark, which looks like elephant skin, but it has a very smooth gray bark and very easy to find in the forest. Beech trees can grow to about 60, 80 feet and pretty big around. They produce a large number of beech nuts about every 2 or 3 years. In the fall, the young beech trees will hang on to their leaves. They'll turn this yellow color for a little bit, and then they turn this beautiful kind of chestnut color, brown tan color. And the young beeches maintain the leaves throughout the winter. Here's one of the first members of the lily family blooming, the trout lily. The trout lily gets its name supposedly from the leaves of the plant that resembles a trout species, probably the brook trout. If you were to look at the top of a brook trout, you'll see that pattern that's very similar to this. For more information about Door County and its beautiful natural features, visit www.doorcountytoday.com.
My name is Katie Dahl. I'm a musician. I live in Door County. I picked up the guitar when I was 19 years old. I was in college and I played the oboe pretty seriously. And I slipped on the ice and broke my wrist and couldn't play oboe for a while. So I decided that I could learn to play guitar and sort of strum the strings with my stiff right hand in a cast and learn the chord shapes. And I haven't played the oboe since the day I broke my wrist. As a college student, decided that it would be great to come back and live here. So I made a definite effort to find a job, and really haven't left for very long since. I've been here more than I've been anywhere else in the last 7 or 8 years. I grew up going to American Folklore Theater, which is a great theater out in the woods in Peninsula State Park, and it's populated by folk musicians primarily. And I would never have learned or wanted to learn to play guitar without the support of that community and the inspiration of that community. So for me, the people that I now call my peers as a musician were the community that I really wanted to join, and it feels like sort of a dream come true to be able to call myself a Door County musician. Here's a song for you. Up by Gibraltar town, there's an old man, sits by the bayside. His thoughts are like paper boats that float in his alcohol. He's a ship in a bottle, washed in by the tide. Smokes cheap cigars and he swears at the seagulls. He laughs at the big boats filled with rich folks on the quay. Walks down by the beach in his long pants and his Sunday shoes, throws sticks to his dog Clementine, breathes in the day. I released my first CD in July of 2009, and I recorded it just about 1.5 miles away from here in David Alley's studio, Northern Sister Bay. And it started off as a smaller project. I wanted to record, I had about 6 songs of my own that I wanted to record, and I wanted to record Gibraltar Town by Fred Alley. Morning in his overcoat, he goes out in his rowboat. You can smell his cigar halfway across the bay. He drops anchor and a fishing line, speaks his mind to Clementine, and watches the sun rise up to meet the day. Here's a song for you. Up by Gibraltar town. Hometown Tables came out of loving to go out to eat in Door County and loving all the different businesses that I frequent here, and really wanting to keep them vibrant, and making sure that we don't let big chains come in and take them over. Make sure that they're able to maintain a presence here, and it really came out of a love of place, like how much I love Door County, how much I love its natural beauty, how much I love the community that I have here, how much I love the businesses that there are here. So that's where Hometown Tables came from. We've got goats up on the rooftop. We've got whitefish in the bay. We've got spotted cows to fill our cup at the end of every day. A white goat roosts at the end of Main Street, just a block from summertime. Autumn days that flow like water, winter nights that glow like wine. We've got singing by the fireside, we've got dancing in the barns. Sometimes the northern lights go rolling like a sky-high ball of yarn. Some folks pray for rain on Monday, some just take it as it comes, straight from the mighty hand of God to the top of his thumb. I say keep the door wide open, I say welcome, come inside. I don't want to be unfriendly, I'm not trying to be unkind. I say some things still are sacred, please don't try to chain me in. I'll break my bread at hometown tables in the company of friends. I would be really glad just to be able to call this place home and still make a musical career out of it, even outside Door County. I feel rooted here, and I would feel lucky even if I didn't have that rooting, but to feel like this is my home in a sort of ancestral way, in a kind of primitive way that I can't even explain, really feels like a big gift.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope you learned something about Door County. For more information, go to doorcountytoday.com. See you next time.